It's time for The Real Messiah with your host, Messianic Jewish author and scholar, Dr. Michael Brown. Here to open up the scriptures, answer your questions, and help you discover Israel's true Messiah. Join the discussion now by calling 866-34-TRUTH. That's 866-34-TRUTH. Here again is Dr. Michael Brown.
Thanks for joining us on The Real Messiah. Welcome to the broadcast. Hey, I'm not taking any calls tonight, so I'm not giving out the phone number. As you hear my voice, I am in India right now, trip number 26 to India. And what's remarkable there is the deep connection we have, Jew and Gentile in Jesus, serving God together. In fact, I want to talk to you about India and Christians there in a moment. I'll come to that. But what I want to do tonight is respond to comments that have been posted on our YouTube channel, Ask Dr. Brown, ASKDR Brown, comments posted on our YouTube channel by traditional Jews and others on some of our videos where I've talked about debating rabbis and things like that, or actual debates with rabbis, or comments that were posted to our Real Messiah broadcast. I want to respond to some of these. I'm not able to respond to comments for the most part on YouTube, but I want to take some time to respond to these. If you're just tuning in and wondering, what is this show? My name is Michael Brown. I'm a Jewish follower of Jesus the Messiah. And this broadcast has one purpose, and that's to introduce Jesus Yeshua to you as a Jewish person or as a non-Jew, to help you to understand that he is the Messiah. Most weeks, vast majority of weeks, we're able to take your calls. So if you differ, have a question, want to raise an issue, you can call. In fact, most of the calls we get are from people who differ with us. But tonight, I want to respond to objections that have been posted elsewhere. And this is to a video on our YouTube channel called Dr. Brown Responds to Rabbi Tovia Singer. We had done some debates in the early 90s, one privately in a home with a small audience there, and then the other on a broadcast that Sid Roth had that blanketed New York City at that time, just as we are blanketing New York City right now on 570 AM, the Mission WMCA. So everybody there in New York, give me a thumbs up. If you don't like me, go ahead, give me a thumbs down. I don't mind, as long as you keep listening. That's the big thing. And everyone watching our live feed on Facebook and YouTube, welcome to the broadcast. So we did these debates over 25 years ago, and Rabbi Singer has steadfastly refused to debate me ever since. He's been given many opportunities. There have been debates set up where he was going to go somewhere and do a debate. For example, a couple of years ago, I got contacted by a major Christian college a couple hours from where I live, and they said Rabbi Tovia Singer has proposed that he comes in and does a debate with someone here. There were some solid professors, etc. They said, we'd like you to debate him. I said, great. Tell him so, and then he'll cancel the debate. Of course, that happened. Once he heard it was with me, he said he wouldn't do it. So he went on a show and gave his reasons as to why he wouldn't debate me again. And they're utterly bogus. Just telling you flat out, they're utterly bogus. So I did a response, broke down what he said, responded to it truthfully, gave a lot of data with specifics. And then people began to weigh in. Over 500 comments to date. And there were others that were either too profane or ugly for me, against me to post. So those aren't there. But 517 posted. Franciscus said, I heard the entire debate, meaning the one that was online, and Dr. Michael Brown demolished the good rabbis. This is over 25 years ago. I dare say that Rabbi Singer will never have another debate with Dr. Brown. And there are many, many, many that say the same thing. And, some even from interesting viewpoints. Ha, ha, ha. Bravo, Dr. Michael Brown. You're a great debater. You have a great karma, and peace of Christ bless you. So who knows where this person is talking about having a great karma. And others saying very plainly, as of thus and such a date, Rabbi Singer, one is just showing from October 27th, 2018. They say he's still lying. In other words, he's presenting things that are not true about why he won't debate me. The good thing is God knows. So that's a good thing. I'm not talking about this for any personal reason. I'm talking about this simply for the sake of truth. And by the way, if you're a counter-missionary listening, a rabbi, a traditional Jew, and you're very upset with me, well, call in and tell me why. Can't do it tonight because I'm in India. But God willing, next week, call in. Another night in December. Call in, tell me why. Or send an email to our website, to askdrbrown.org, and tell me why you differ with me. Raise your objections. We'd love to interact with you. Yeah. Absolutely, for sure. Why not? What do we have to hide? That's why I do debates. We got nothing to hide. Let's put it on the table. Let's sharpen each other. Let's learn from each other. Let's expose error. I'm all in. Let's do it. Let's do it. And by the way, there's like Rabbi Mizrahi, and why don't you debate him? I've offered to. He sent me this, okay, answer these questions first. Rabbi Mizrahi, I answer these questions over and over for years and years and years. They're elementary questions. What do I have to prove to you that I'm worthy to debate you when you've debated others that didn't have credentials? Why do I have to prove that? Well, in any case, they're right here. I've written about it. They're in my books. Here's exactly where you find it. You want the answer? Here's the long answer. I'm going to buy your books. All right, we'll send you the books for free. My gift. All 5 volumes. Wrote to him several times. Here we are. Here are the books. We'll send them to you. Just tell us. And here are the answers. You want me to answer your questions? Here, I answered this one, this one, this one, this one, in the books. Put out a video. You want short answers, like 30-second answers to each one? There they are. I've been trying for years to debate Rabbi Mizrahi. I know others who have been trying. Hebrew speakers, Israelis, believers, been trying to debate him. He won't. Just telling you the truth, all my friends listening in Brooklyn, all critics listening to me, all you who are followers of Rabbi Mizrahi, he is refusing to debate not just me, but others who are qualified. Just telling you. He did one debate with one gentleman, man loves the Lord, but perhaps did not have the background that would be requisite for doing a debate like that. And so why do I need to do another debate? Well, you didn't debate me. You didn't debate someone who had those particular credentials to do a debate. We've answered your questions. We've provided you a free offer for the literature. I'm just telling the truth, because some people think, why won't Brown do the debate? I will, with joy. With joy. All right, so somebody posted this, a few days ago. Rabbi Tovia Singer is not scared. It is simply a waste of time to argue with Dr. Brown, who accepts the Hebrew scriptures, does not talk about any virgin birth, but New Testament clearly says it is. Matthew 1:23. Dr. Brown is trying to defend a book which he believes himself is lying. What kind of nonsense is that? I believe the New Testament is lying? And you actually have a link to a video where I talk about Matthew 1:23, where he quotes from Isaiah 7:14 about the virgin birth. And you think I think the New Testament is lying? And you think that I say the Hebrew Bible does not describe the miraculous birth of the Messiah? That's odd. It's odd when someone misquotes me to refute me. Think of that. Someone misquotes you to refute you. So, first thing is, I didn't say Rabbi Singer was scared, never said that. Just said his reasons that he gives for not doing the debate are bogus. Bogus, capital B-O-G-U-S. 100% bogus. No need to get into that any further. You want to find out more, get the details, just go to askdrbrown.org and just search for the word Tovia, and you'll get a link to where we discuss this, all right? And if you want to listen to the debate from over 25 years ago, it's on our Real Messiah website. It's audio only. Oh, in fact, it reminds me that we had an agreement for CBN 700 Club to come in and film the debate. They came in with a camera crew, and they were going to air the debate on Christian TV. Now, think of that. Think if someone gave me the opportunity to debate a rabbi and to take that debate and to put it on a Jewish network so Jewish people around the world, or traditional Jews in particular, could watch it. Boy, would I do that in a heartbeat. Boy, would I be thrilled to have the opportunity. It would be an incredible privilege. So here you got a rabbi who has the opportunity to do a debate with a Messianic Jew and put that debate out for potentially millions of Christians to watch on TV. Think of that. Wow, what an opportunity. So the folks came, 700 Club folks came. They had a form for us to sign. So we signed our form. Sid Roth, myself, signed the form. And Rabbi Singer said, I'll sign that after. And it didn't seem like anything at the moment. I mean, they came in with their camera crew. They filmed the whole thing, all right? Plenty of witnesses can verify that. He said, I'll sign that after. Well, we didn't really think of anything. It's just, okay, I don't want to deal with that now. No problem. Afterwards, he refused to sign. That is the truth. You have to ask, why? I actually tried maybe a year or two. When did we post this video originally? We posted it September 12th, 2016. So over 2 years ago, I reached out to a colleague who used to work with 700 Club saying, is there any possibility they would have kept the video footage from that, the raw? And he said, no, it was never used. You don't just archive the stuff endlessly. So if it does exist somewhere, probably one of those boxes in some secret chamber, like Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of, one of those deals. But I'm just letting you know what happened. These are facts because I believe in bringing everything out to light. And I so honor and respect those who've said, let's have a debate. Some have said, we can't do a live debate, but let's do it in other formats. I so respect them for doing that and for challenging me. Hey, we've got an objection. Bring your answer out to light. As I have opportunity to, I do my best to do that. Again, I'm just telling the truth. So this idea that I think the New Testament is lying, no, not at all. Not at all. Number one, Isaiah 7 does speak of a birth of great significance, apparently a supernatural birth. That's number one. Number two, the young woman described as an Alma could well be virgin. Matthew's just telling us that she was. Alma in and of itself does not mean virgin. It speaks of youthfulness and perhaps a young woman who's coming to puberty, maybe of marriageable age, but the presumption could well be, and as the foremost Jewish commentator Rashi says, that it wasn't suitable for her to give birth. You wouldn't be thinking of a woman of that age giving birth or that status giving birth. So, number one, the context in Isaiah 7, speaking of a threat to the house of David and a replacement for the house of David, a threat to the dynasty to whom the messianic promises were given, and God saying, "All right, I'm going to answer. I'm going to respond. The king is faithless, but I'm going to respond. You want a miraculous sign? You won't ask for a miraculous sign? I'll give you a sign. I'll give you a sign." So there's something miraculous about it. There's something supernatural about it. There's something of great significance, and I believe it's God's answer in terms of who He's going to put on the throne of David, and ultimately, in that sense, is a messianic prophecy. It should be taken in the context of Isaiah 7, 9, and 11. Read them all through, and you'll see it becomes a messianic context there. That's one thing. It's a supernatural birth. Number two, an Alma could certainly refer to a virgin. It's an excellent word to use for virgin. It just does not mean virgin exclusively. The Hebrew word betulah, just in a context like that, would just mean young woman. In a legal context would be virgin, but in that context, not necessarily, just means young woman. So either word used, unless you said who had never known a man, would not necessarily convey certainty of virginity. But either one, Alma or betulah, will refer to a virgin. Absolutely. Clearly not referring to an older married woman who's had children. No, you wouldn't use those terms, especially Alma. So Matthew is telling us that she was, in fact, a virgin. And he's just quoting from the Jewish translation of his day that identifies her as a Parthenos. If Parthenos at that time in Greek clearly meant virgin, then Matthew just quoting from the Greek translation of his day by Jews that said virgin, and therefore is intended by the Holy Spirit to give further insight. Or if the word Parthenos could be ambiguous, does it mean virgin, does it mean young woman? Matthew's just quoting that. So this is the kind of stuff. It's a little frustrating. It's a little frustrating, not for me. This doesn't affect me, but for that person to think, how do you watch the link and come to the conclusion that I think the New Testament is lying? But it does show you how far people are willing to go to justify something this extreme, namely Rabbi Tovia Singer's excuses for not doing the debate. Here's another comment that was posted there. This is from someone who goes by the screen name Ben Naftali. Mr. Brown, Isaiah 53 could never be about this so-called Jesus. So he's now getting into a specific debate issue. No matter how it comes across. Why? Because it violates Torah in so many ways. So what does Isaiah 53 say? That the righteous one died for the unrighteous. That we all sinned. God put the punishment upon him. That he died so we could live. The great teaching of substitutionary atonement. As many have said, it's as if Isaiah took out his pen and wrote at the foot of the cross. So Ben Naphtali says that Isaiah 53 couldn't refer to Jesus because it violates Torah in so many ways. Now, here's my first question. What violates Torah? Isaiah 53 or what you claim is my interpretation of Isaiah 53? If Isaiah 53 violates Torah, you got a big problem there because Isaiah 53 is inspired literature. It's a prophet of Israel. And if a prophet of Israel violated Torah, then he's not a true prophet of Israel. So I assume you mean my interpretation of Isaiah 53 that says it refers to Jesus, that my interpretation of Isaiah 53 violates Torah. So we'll go from there. According to the Torah, human sacrifice was never an option. Agreed. I agree. I don't believe in human sacrifice. Absolutely not. Wholeheartedly repudiate it. The whole Bible does. I've written against it in the context of abortion, where you have the ancient pagans would sacrifice children, human sacrifice. Yeah, I categorically, under all circumstances, I reject human sacrifice. Totally. Yeah. Ever heard me teach on this or read volume 2 of Answering Jewish Objections to Jesus, Theological Objections? Of course, make that totally clear. He continues, therefore, if Yahweh had a son, he would not send him to die for the sin of Israel and the world, according to John 3:16. Now you're confusing two different things. You're confusing human sacrifice with the Son of God coming into the world and saying, I will pay for the sins of the world. You're confusing two totally different categories. You're confusing someone who is innocent and says, let the punishment fall on me. The righteous intercessor, the one who climbs into the breach, stands in the gap, takes the effect of the enemy's attack or takes the effect of what's coming against his people, and he dies that they may live. Well, that's a wonderfully biblical concept. It's one that we find in the prophets and the Psalms, Moses climbing into the breach, Ezekiel speaking of God looking for someone that would climb into the breach. So you put your own life. There's a hole in the wall because of negligence or the sin of the city. They've been attacked and they've not rebuilt the wall. So the courageous prophet, the intercessor, would stand in the breach and basically tell the enemy and tell those attacking, it could be divine judgment. Before you get to them, you have to get to me. So he would interpose his own life. That's what an intercessor does. So this is a wonderfully biblical concept from that level. That's one thing. The second thing is that Judaism teaches with a scriptural foundation that the death of the righteous atones for the sins of the generation. Isn't it interesting that when there's a famine in the land, in 2 Samuel, the 21st chapter, there's a famine in the land, and David inquires of the Lord and says, why is there famine? And the Lord said, it's because of the household of Saul and the bloodshed in Gibeah. So what's required? What do the people want? Well, they want some of the descendants of Saul killed. David takes them and kills them. And after that, the Lord answers prayer and the famine stops. That's even cited in rabbinic literature to support the idea that the death of the righteous atones. Now, here it was not a willing thing where these people said, hey, come and take us. All right. But somehow there had been bloodshed, there had been guilt. Now people related to it, they would be killed in order to bring forgiveness, in order to fix the wrong. And what do we see in Numbers, the 35th chapter? That if you unintentionally killed someone, you would flee to a city of refuge. And because blood had been shed, blood polluted the land, and the family that lost that loved one, they could come, the family that lost that relative, they could come and kill you unless you're in a city of refuge, because blood for blood. Blood pollutes the land. So you have to stay in that city of refuge till you die. Unless the high priest dies first, then you leave. When the high priest dies, you leave. Well, he's the representative intercessor. And when the Talmud addresses this, those of you who are traditional Jews know the Talmud asked the question, what is it that atoned? So this man could leave the city of refuge. Was it his time in exile or was it the death of the high priest? And the answer is the death of the high priest atoned. So well-known traditional Jewish teaching that the death of the righteous atones for the sins of the generation. If that generation repents, there's forgiveness. A few years back, tragic killing in Har Nof, a neighborhood in the outskirts of Jerusalem. Traditional Jewish community, men in early morning prayer in the synagogue, two Palestinian terrorists come in and butcher them. It was a horrific scene. Family wanted pictures released of the synagogue with not only the bodies, but the blood. It was terrible. And one of the eulogies at the funeral for these four men who died spoke of God's anger with Klal Yisrael, with the people of Israel, the community of Israel as a whole. And that God found these four righteous men, and they were korbans, they were sacrifices. So that's how they were looked at, as a sacrifice, that God poured out his judgment on them, that they died these horrible deaths, so that his judgment would not be poured out on the whole nation. And now it's a call to the nation to repent. So no, I don't believe in human sacrifice, God forbid. But I do believe in the prophetic intercessor who puts his life between coming judgment and his people, and they die to save them. And I do believe in the atoning power of the death of the righteous, if you can find someone perfectly righteous, which we have with the Messiah. The post goes on. Let's also take a look at what Yah has to say in Deuteronomy 24:16. Now, what's interesting, and I don't know who this person is, but what's interesting is he cannot be an ultra-Orthodox Jew. Otherwise, he would not be writing out Yah. He would not be writing out God's name in any shape, size, or form. So Deuteronomy 24:16, nor would he be quoting King James. So whoever this individual is, he would not likely be quoting the King James, and he certainly would not be spelling out Yah. I could speculate on this person's background, but we'll leave it there. The fathers, Deuteronomy 24:16, shall not be put to death for the children, neither shall the children be put to death for the fathers. Every man shall be put to death for his own sin. The word of Yah is plain and is void of any confusion. Yeah, right. I agree with that. So if Joe Smith kills someone and his son, Joe Smith Jr., is a 20-year-old kid, good kid, not a murderous bone in his body, and he happens to live in the same neighborhood, but you don't put the son to death for what the father did. You don't put them both to death. You put the one to death that committed the crime. He took a life, he loses life. Correct. Who's arguing with that? Who's arguing with that? But that's nothing to do with all the verses I just cited and all the examples I just gave, and even within traditional Jewish literature. So the fact is, Isaiah 53 speaks so plainly and wonderfully of Yeshua the Messiah that countless numbers of Jews have come to faith while reading that passage. And others have had their faith strengthened while reading that passage, or come back to the Lord while reading that passage. And you know what's fascinating is that I was doing a talk at Yale University in 1993, I believe it was, 93 or 94 at the latest. And it was on, will the real Messiah please rise? At that time, the greatly beloved and honored Lubavitcher Rebbe, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, had a stroke, was incapacitated. His followers thought that he, at that time around 92 years old, that he was going to rise up and be glorified and revealed as the Messiah. I can't say all of his followers, but that's what I heard from any of his followers I ever spoke with. That was the expectation, as best as I know. And I asked, okay, will the real Messiah please rise? And said, let's look at his credentials, as amazing a man as he was, an incredible leader as he was, and as greatly loved as he was. And let's look at Yeshua's credentials and see, can we discern which of them is the Messiah? As I was speaking to Lubavitcher rabbis, ultra-Orthodox Hasidic rabbis from that particular sect of Judaism, they came into the room, and there's a lecture hall seated about 100 people, and they marched in very boldly and clearly and began to object to what I was saying. And I said, excuse me, I'm giving a lecture. At the end, there'll be time for Q&A. Well, they didn't really look to me with much respect and continued to disrupt until we had to say, listen, I want to give you an opportunity to speak, but you've got to wait at the end of the lecture. I will, otherwise security will remove you. So at that point, there was security there, and they said, okay, play by the rules. So afterwards, I opened the floor for comments, and instead of just letting it be a brief Q&A, I let them give their say. I mean, I let them talk for a while. And we went back and forth, interacted. One more prominent than the other among the rabbis. One was the campus rabbi, but they're both involved there. And what was fascinating was one of them said, it does not say that Jesus will die. It does not say that Jesus will die. He was emphatic about it. Does not talk about him dying, an individual dying. And then he began to give the right interpretation in his view that it's talking about the Jewish people dying. And as the Jewish people have suffered around the world, as the Jewish people have been scapegoated, as the Jewish people have been blamed for all the world's problems, that ultimately, the end of Isaiah 52 says this, and Isaiah 53 is saying this in the traditional interpretation. It's the nations of the world saying, we thought the Jewish people were suffering for their sins. We thought they were suffering because they were guilty. We thought they were suffering because they were breaking the law, they dishonored God, whatever it was. They're actually suffering because of our sins. That their suffering somehow is redemptive. That they're taking our punishment was somehow redemptive. And that all we, a traditional Jewish interpretation, sees Isaiah 53:6 as the kings speaking. All we like sheep have gone astray. Each one has turned to his own way, but the Lord has laid on him, namely servant Israel, the iniquity of us all. And that we thought he's being pierced and bruised for our sins, for his sins. It's actually our sins he was bearing, and by his wounds we're healed. So what was remarkable is that the rabbi said, this applies to the nation of Israel. This applies to the Jewish people suffering around the world through the centuries. This applies to them. It does not apply to Jesus. And okay, fine, I understand that argument. But they were emphatic. It doesn't say he'll die, and it says the Jewish people will die. Oh, hang on. I thought you said it doesn't speak of death. Of course, I raised that issue. They were so emphatic. Oh, all the verses you say in Isaiah 53, it speaks of dying. It doesn't speak of dying at all. It doesn't say dying. Okay. Well, then don't turn around and say it speaks of Jewish people dying. If it doesn't speak of dying, it doesn't speak of anyone dying. If it speaks of dying, it's dying. Then we have to ask, who's it speaking about? So I didn't come up with the ideas, but it's really quite extraordinary. And we've all seen it in action, at least in a movie or read it in a novel, where there are some people who have done bad things, and there's a crowd that wants to get them. And maybe there's a family member highly respected in the community that, their head is worth more than the heads of all the others, so to say. And this person, even though this person didn't do anything, they say, here, take me. You want payback? You're upset. My cousin here and my friend here, they beat up your best friend here, and now you want payback? Beat me up. Take me instead. This is the sacrifice of love. This is the sacrifice of the righteous for the unrighteous. And we see it most clearly in the Messiah. So if you can just take off the glasses through which you've read the text before and go and read it again and say, Father, would you show me who this is really speaking of if I've read it wrongly? All of a sudden, Messiah comes jumping off the page. All of a sudden, Yeshua's sacrifice on our behalf, not human sacrifice, but the death of the righteous atoning for the sins of the world. There it is, crystal clear, in living color for all to see. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Hey friends, this is Michael Brown. Over the years, going on almost 50 years now of interacting with our Jewish people about Jesus, there's so many objections that have been raised. I wrote 5 whole volumes, over 1,500 pages, on answering Jewish objections to Jesus, and then recorded a 22-hour lecture series on the same subject. But that's a lot of material to take in. I want to put something in your hands absolutely free. If you are a Jewish person wanting to find out the truth about Jesus the Messiah, I want to put this book in your hands absolutely free. It's a mini book. It's an easy read, but it's a page turner. Each new page you'll be wanting to turn the next. It's called 7 Secrets of the Real Messiah. You can get it as a mini book in paperback, or you can get the ebook. Now here's how you get it. Go to my website, realmessiah.com. That's realmessiah.com, and click on the free ebook offer, and then explore the website. You'll find testimonies of other Jewish people who believe in Jesus the Messiah. You'll find teachings we do on the feasts and holy days and rabbinic literature and insights from there into Jesus being the Messiah. We even have a synopsis of major objections with video and written answers, all waiting for you at realmessiah.com. Get the free mini book today. Thanks, friends, for tuning in to tonight's Real Messiah broadcast. Now, this show has been pre-recorded because I am in India right now and unable to do this broadcast live from India. So this has been pre-recorded. However, I am going to make a bold prediction. So, okay, we're the first week of December as you're hearing this. I'm recording at the end of November. I'm going to make a bold prediction. All right. Are you ready? Everyone listening all over New York City, I am making the prediction a week in advance that where I am in India is a lot warmer than where you are right now. Oh, yeah. Even if you have some unexpected hot streak, I'm telling you where I am in India is a whole lot warmer than where you are right now. How do you like that for a bold prediction? Okay. Because we have specially prepared this broadcast for you, I'm unable to take your calls. But if you hear something that you're upset about or you disagree with, hey, plan to call me next week. We're here every Wednesday, 5:70 a.m., The Mission, WMCA, 9 to 10, or 9 to 9:55 to be precise, every single Wednesday night. We're here. And our phone lines, almost every broadcast, are wide open for you to call. So please do. Please do. And if you're watching online, Facebook, YouTube, we air a live stream of the broadcast. You can call in as well, as long as your questions relate to the topic of the show, which is Jesus, Yeshua, being the Messiah of Israel. So why do I do public debates? I've debated rabbis. I've debated counter-missionaries. I've debated agnostic professors. I've debated gay activists and gay pastors. I've debated fellow believers in Jesus on different doctrinal subjects, done lots of debates, some with atheists, here and there with Muslims, although not a full-blown formal debate with a Muslim. Why do I do debate? I love doing debates. I take them very seriously. And there's always a sense of as sure as you are of the subject matter and as confident as you are of what you're going to say, there's a sense of real dependence on the Lord and not being arrogant in terms of, well, I have all the answers, and recognizing how high the stakes are in terms of presenting what you believe to be divine truth. In that sense, speaking on behalf of God and the Bible. So I do these I love doing them. I look forward to them. They're highlights in my life. At the same time, I do them with holy fear, if you get me. So why do I debate rabbis? Please understand that I didn't start this. I didn't initiate this. As a brand new believer in Yeshua, 1971, and it's right about this time of the year, 47 years ago, it was December 17th of 1971, that with God's grace and help, 16 years old, I said, I'll never put a needle in my arm again. I was living a decadent, wicked life, bar mitzvah, but it was a nominal Jewish home. I was not a religious Jew. I'd been leading a decadent, rebellious life and very excited about it and very into it, loving my sin, although my sin didn't love me, and there was a price I was paying for it. And God really dealt with me, brought me to deep repentance, and I really encountered his love and joy in extraordinary ways. So December 17th of 71, I said, God, I'll never put a needle in my arm again, and was free from that night on. So once my dad saw that this faith in Jesus thing was real, he said, okay, great. Michael, I'm glad to see you off drugs, but we're Jews. We don't believe these things. I want you to meet with a local rabbi. So we began meeting in 1972. And he was fresh out of Jewish Theological Seminary, absolutely brilliant guy, so learned in Hebrew, learned in Bible, learned in rabbinic literature. And we began to interact. And he lovingly challenged me, left and right. And we'd have these intense, long discussions by phone, and we'd meet together. And he'd say, hey, I want you to meet another rabbi. I want you to come here with me. And his goal was really get me into a yeshiva and somewhere I just learned day and night. So he'd bring me to meet all these different rabbis, ultra-Orthodox rabbis, different ones. And I'd, look at the yeshiva and what they were doing and then spend some time privately with the rabbi. And it was my opportunity to talk to him about Jesus. I was very zealous, and obviously they want to influence me. So I didn't start the debate from day one, not the first minute, but I mean, within a few months of being a brand new believer, before I'd read much of the Bible, I knew barely any Hebrew whatsoever, I was being lovingly challenged by rabbis. Every so often, not so lovingly, but for the most part, lovingly challenged. What I believe is wrong, what I believe is wrong. Read this, it'll show you what you believe is wrong. Read this, it'll show you the New Testament misrepresents the Hebrew Bible. Read this, it'll tell you about the horrors of church history. Read this, it'll show you about the depth of Jewish spirituality. So I was being challenged, and I was having private debates, okay? Now, I was glad to have them. Some of them did really challenge me because I didn't know that much. I knew the Lord had changed my life. I knew he was very real in my life. I knew that Jesus died for my sins and rose from the dead, but hey, we don't just shut off our mind. Turn off your brain. No, we don't turn off our brains. We love God with all of our heart, all of our soul, all of our mind, all of our strength, right? We don't turn our brains off. There's certain things that we don't understand as human beings worshiping a transcendent God. There's certain things we don't understand as human beings following an eternal God, no beginning, no end. But we don't turn our brains off. We renew our minds. We learn, we grow, and we love God with our heart and our mind. So sometimes I was challenged, and I was challenged by the devotion of some of these men. So they would always want to debate me. No, not a public debate, but a private debate. And we'd spend hours. I spent hours beginning in 1973 with Lubavitcher rabbis, ultra-Orthodox Hasidic Jews, very devoted. And they were very loving and gracious towards me. And their example was excellent. And in other words, they gave a great representation of traditional Judaism to me. They didn't turn me off. They challenged me. And that drove me all the more to my knees before God in prayer, and all the more to study of the scripture, and all the more to learning Hebrew. And I'm grateful to those men. I'm indebted to them in that they provoked me and they challenged me. And then there was a desire to publicly expose, quote, Jews for Jesus or Jewish followers of Jesus, and show that we didn't know anything. And sure, let's talk about it publicly. And the counter missionaries very, very publicly giving their presentations and doing their best to refute Messianic Jews. Well, as I learned more, great, let's do this publicly. The first time I publicly debated a rabbi, it was in a conservative synagogue in Suffolk County on Long Island, Comac. And it was at the rabbi's invitation. As the rabbi who had befriended me 10 years earlier, now he had moved further out to the island. I lived in Island Park right next to Long Beach. So those of you that know the island, know where I live. So that was in Nassau County, closer to the city. He moved out to Suffolk County, further from the city, took over a bigger synagogue there. He was doing a series of talks about origins of Judaism, Christianity, etc., and invited a local pastor to come in and debate him. And he said, Mike, the guy didn't have any background. I demolished him. He said, you're better educated. Would you come in and debate me about Jesus being the Messiah? Are you serious? Of course I would, in your synagogue. Absolutely. So the first debate I did, I was invited to debate him. I've subsequently debated that rabbi, brilliant man, in a setting, and it was kind of a Q&A back and forth. The second one, he was doing a Jewish education class, as more liberal Reform Jews there, and he said, hey, can you come in and we'll have a public dialogue about this? So I remember we lived in Maryland at that point. Nancy and I drove in together to see him and to do some other things in the city and to do that. So I was invited to do it. And I remain wide open to do these debates, not just with rabbis, but with many, many others. I remain wide open to do these because I believe it's a great opportunity to put the different beliefs on the table and to challenge one another. Here, I just did a debate. I'm not going to mention details. I did a debate with an individual that holds to a position that some Christians say is not even Christian. It's so extreme. And he really wanted to debate me. He pushed hard for a long time to debate me. I didn't want to do it. I for a number of reasons. I debated others in his camp before, but he really wanted to do it. And because he had written a book, co-authored a book on the subject, I said, fine, we'll do it. And I was talking to my students afterwards, and they said it was absolutely, his position was absolutely ridiculous, and you exposed how ridiculous it was. Well, that's why I agreed to do it. Someone else challenged me to a debate. Another Christian doesn't even believe I'm a believer, doesn't believe I'm a follower of Jesus because of what I believe. All right. He challenged me to a debate. He wrote a whole book in preparation for the debate, refuting me in a whole book. I was glad to do it. Sure, glad to, because I believe he had serious error. And thankfully in the debate, I believe that got exposed. So I'm very happy to do it. And then in some cases where I feel that it's a debate where there's some validity on each side. In other words, it's within the faith. It's within the parameters of we believe very similar things, but we have a difference here. It's like, well, let's hear each other's out. Let's understand each other better. And at the very least, if it's someone I love and care for, want to get to know, through a public debate, I can better understand their position. I can better probe them and go back and forth in that kind of setting. And we may not have the opportunity otherwise. And to me, it draws me closer to that person. It helps me to better understand their perspective. And if I think the error is serious, that I see it even more clearly. And maybe it challenges me to think more. Maybe there's something in my argument. It's like, I gave a good answer to that, but I think there's a better answer. I want to dig more. Yeah, I gave my normal answer to that, but I think about it. I think there's an even better answer to be found. So I gladly do these. I think that everyone benefits from them. And I honestly wish I had the time to do written debates with everyone that's asked me to, a couple of rabbis in particular. I wish I had the time to respond to everybody in writing. That's one reason I spent all the years writing 5 volumes, 1,500 pages on answering Jewish objections to Jesus, to do my best to get everything out in writing. So here's my best shot. There it is. And if you want to respond to that, I can't necessarily respond to your responses to all that I've written. But that's where we took all the time to do that. And God willing, as time permits, we do respond to some of the responses to the volumes. But to me, it's not just a matter of who's the better speaker or who does better with time frames or who. I understand those things are all factored in. I love the challenge of the moment. I love that. When someone says, okay, I want to do an interview with you for my radio show, and I want to send you the questions in advance, I said, that's great, but I'm very happy if you don't. Now, sometimes I like to look and study and think through and really formulate answers, but I love the spontaneity of something just, I feel often that's how the Holy Spirit works. I've studied, I've learned, I've prayed, I've reflected, and now it kind of, at the right moment, comes to the surface. And I love that flow of things. But the goal is not who's quicker on their feet, who's funnier, look, I've debated great orators like Rabbi Shmuley Boteach. He's a famous orator and certainly brilliant and quick on his feet. He does great on the TV shows when his views are being challenged and things like that. I've debated seasoned debaters who have debated many others for many years. So the goal is not to be the better debater. Although, if someone is doing a poor job of presenting their position, I'm doing a good job of presenting mine. If I'm on the side of truth, I'm happy with that. If I'm sure they're on the side of error and I'm on the side of truth, I'm very happy with that. But I'm not trying to win the debate. I'm trying to get the positions out for people to look at and evaluate. Even if it's only 2 hours and we can't get as in-depth as we want. Sometimes 2 hours is more than enough because the positions are so glaringly different and one is so glaringly right and the other so glaringly wrong. But at least we get the main issues out there. At least we get the main contours out there. At least we get to challenge each other on some level. And now the things are presented in a particular way. So Israeli rabbi, influential in Israel and in America, Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi, some years ago, I was put in touch with him about doing a debate, and he had debated another Christian leader, but someone great heart for the Lord, but not with a background to do a debate like that, and got a lot of attention online, and people pointed, look at how good the rabbi did and all of this. So someone put us in touch about doing a debate. I wrote back to him, I mentioned this earlier in the broadcast. I said, yeah, sure. Glad to do it. I'd love to debate you. And he said, I want you to answer these questions first. These elementary level questions that I've answered at length in book form. And I have to prove myself to you that I'm worthy to debate you. So, Reverend Mizrahi here, I've written all the answers in these books. If you want them, go for it. Why would I read these books? Why would I get these books? Why would I take the... So he wouldn't do it. So we reached out again. When we heard reasons why he wouldn't debate, and well, I already debated some. Well, you didn't really debate a qualified representative, sad to say. So let's do it the right way. Whenever I'm going to do debates, that's the other thing. If I don't think the person is a qualified representative, I don't want to do the debate because it's not fair to that position. If I got in the ring, let's say I weigh around 190 pounds or something like that. So let's say I got in the ring with a middleweight boxer. Okay, so what does he weigh? 160 pounds, a professional boxer. So I'm few pounds heavier than him, right? He'd knock me out instantly and maybe kill me. All right. What does that prove? That proves zero. It proves zero. He's a professional boxer. I'm a 63-year-old guy in good shape, but not a boxer. And okay, enough said. So I want to debate someone that's not a worthy candidate. Anyone can call him on a radio show and have a debate with me. I want to debate someone that's a worthy candidate that represents their position well, that their community recognizes. Otherwise, it's not fair to that position. What does it prove? Nothing. So Rabbi Mizrahi, okay, I'm qualified. Got some other colleagues that are qualified. Let's do a debate. Now, why would I buy the books? I'll send you the books for free. Again, reached out, wrote, we'll send you all the books for free. Still nothing. Tell you what, here's what I'll do. So I challenged him to a public debate, February 10th, 2016. Posted that on YouTube. Dr. Brown challenges Yosef Mizrahi to a public debate. So if you want to watch that, it's just how long? 3 minutes, 10 seconds. And then again, September 19th, so 7 months later, I again reached out. Dr. Brown reaches out again to Rabbi Mizrahi. And well, see, he never responded to these questions. Oh, I tell you what, here's a 30-second response to each question. Now I've been attacked by people. Well, you think that's a response? That's so short. It's like, I have whole books responding. All I was doing there is giving you the 30-second version. And by the way, the reason it was that length of time was we were recording immediately before a radio broadcast, and it was when we had the window to do it. And we had some glitches with recording and glitches and glitches and glitches. And finally, we had a limited amount of time. I said, I'll just answer quickly because I've got the full answers for anyone who wants them. Here they are in books. I'm not going to read the books. It's too long. Here they are in short form. That's too short. In the New Testament, Jesus was talking, and John the Immerser, Yochanan HaMatbil, known as John the Baptist in Christian circles, but known as Rabbi Yochanan to his followers, when he was in prison, he began to wonder, as a human being, had some doubts, because he knew that Yeshua, his younger cousin, was the Messiah, and he's going to be revealed to Israel as the Messiah, but now he's languishing in prison, and are you the one, or is it someone else? And Yeshua responds, and he says, well, go tell John what you see and hear. The deaf hear, the blind see, the lame walk, dead are raised. The poor have the gospel preached to them, the good news, Besorah in Hebrew. And truly blessed is anyone who's not offended by me. That was enough for John to know, okay, you're the real deal. And you're not coming now to destroy the wicked, set up a kingdom. You're coming to set the captives free. And that's part of the mission of the Messiah. And then Yeshua addresses the crowds. He addresses the crowds, and he says this. He says, John. He said, you're like children in the marketplace, and we played the flute for you. You didn't dance. We gave you the mourner's dirge, and you didn't mourn. Like, what do you want? You want happy music? You want sad music? You don't like the happy music? You don't like the sad music? He said, John came to you, neither eating nor drinking. He lived a separated life. He lived a life of self-denial, of abstinence. He's got a demon, that guy. Doesn't hang out with the people and eat the food we all eat. He just fasts all the time and subsists on this lowly diet and guy's demonized, crazy. And then Yeshua, who refers to himself as the Son of Man, a messianic title, read Daniel 7 for that. He says he comes eating and drinking. In other words, he fasted, went on extended fast, 40-day fast and things like that, but he hung out with the people. And he'd have meals in people's homes with tax collectors and prostitutes and show them the love of God. And so he'd come eating and drinking, and they said, he's a glutton. He's an alcoholic. What's with this guy? So John comes abstaining, not eating, not drinking, right? Eating very little, separating himself. He's got a demon, this guy. He's a religious fanatic. He's demon possessed. Yeshua comes. How does he come? He comes with the people. Yes, lives a separated life, fast, prays, perfectly holy, but he hangs with the people. He eats and he drinks. And what happens? He's like this worldly guy. He's a drunkard. What's with this guy? Glutton. You can't have it both ways. So here we reach out to someone like Rabbi Mizrahi. And by the way, I make a big deal of this because people say, why don't you debate him? I've been trying for years. I want to say again, I 100% respect those who say, we don't think public debates are fruitful or the best way to get ideas out. Let's continue to interact privately. I totally respect that. I totally respect those who say, if we can do an extended period of time in writing, if time permits to do that, or in other formats I think are more fruitful for reflection, I totally respect that. Honor that. Again, I wish I had more time to do that with everyone that wants to, because there's some very, very worthy people that want to do that. But I don't respect someone with subterfuge or talking with bravado and then refusing to challenge, not just from me, but from others. So we give the long answer. Here's the long, press too long. Who has time for that? Okay, here's the bite-sized answer. Press bite-sized. It proves nothing. You can't have it both ways. So if you're a follower of Rabbi Mizrahi, my door remains open. And I have friends. You want to do it in Israel, in Hebrew, because I'm not a fluent Hebrew speaker, fluent biblical Hebrew, but I'm not a fluent modern Hebrew speaker. We've got folks that would gladly have a public debate with Rabbi Mizrahi in Hebrew, in Israel, and they have been reaching out to him for some time, and he refuses to do it. Here's the other thing I don't respect. Don't go public with your views, bashing other views, and then refuse to interact publicly with those who want to respond to those views. Let us interact. Let us dialogue. And how about this? I say this as one Jew to another. How about saying before God, God, with your help, I want to follow you and I want to follow your truth wherever it leads, regardless of cost or consequence. That's what I want to do. All right, we've got a special announcement for you. Stay tuned. And then, God willing, next week we'll be back with you taking your calls right here on The Real Messiah. Hey friends, thanks so much for being part of today's broadcast. I want to speak to you for a moment if you are a follower of Jesus the Messiah. Would you partner with me in bringing the good news of Yeshua to the lost sheep of the house of Israel? Is there anything more sacred or precious we could do together in the Lord? Friends, we have resources we need to get out in Hebrew. We have enhancements we need to put on our Real Messiah website. We need more help to answer the many questions that come in from Jewish inquirers and from those wanting to know about the Jewish roots of the faith. And this is something we can do together with your help. Paul said the gospel is to the Jew first and also to the Gentiles. So join with me today in reaching the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Right now, take a moment and go to Ask Dr. Brown, askdrbrown.org, and click on Donate.